My sister thought she'd won. She was dead wrong. The ringing of my satellite phone at 2 o'clock AM local time cut through the humid African night like a shard of glass. I fumbled for it in the suffocating darkness of my temporary quarters, exhaustion clinging to me like a second skin. Emma, you need to hear this. My sister Rachel's voice oozed smug satisfaction, a sound that instantly sent a shiver of dread down my spine. I already knew something terrible was coming. Remember that little property dispute you and I were having? Well, consider it settled. I sold the house. I sat bolt upright, the remnants of sleep instantly vanishing. You did what? Don't act so surprised. She purred, her voice laced with venomous delight. That house has been sitting empty for months while you're off playing humanitarian. Someone needed to do something about it. My name is Emma, and I'm a trauma surgeon volunteering with Doctors Without Borders in Uganda. The house Rachel was talking about wasn't just any property. It was our family home, left to us jointly by our parents. The same house she'd been relentlessly trying to pressure me into selling for the past 2 years. Rachel, I said carefully, struggling to keep my voice steady despite the icy rage consuming me. You can't sell the house without my signature. I'm a co-owner. Her laughter echoed cruelly through the phone, a sound that made my blood boil. Actually, I can. Remember that power of attorney you signed before you left? The one for emergencies? Well, I used it. The sale closed yesterday. My heart slammed against my ribs, threatening to burst. The power of attorney. I'd signed it thinking Rachel might need to handle medical decisions on me while I was abroad, never imagining she would betray me so spectacularly. I never expected her to sink this low. The house is worth at least $3 million. I spat, my mind reeling. Why would you sell it for a pittance of its value? The market's terrible right now, she replied dismissively, as if talking about the weather. Besides, I needed a quick cash infusion. David's investment opportunity won't wait forever. David, of course, my sister's husband of 2 years, the self-proclaimed financial genius who had already burned through a significant portion of their savings with his ludicrous get-rich-quick schemes. You know what, Emma? Rachel continued, her voice now edged with a razor sharpness. You don't get to complain. You abandoned everything to play doctor in Africa. Someone had to deal with reality back home. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the image of my sister's self-serving grin, but the image was burned on the back of my eyelids. Then I thought about what was hidden inside that house, something Rachel knew nothing about, something that would make her quick cash sale look like the catastrophic mistake it truly was. Who bought it? I asked, trying to sound defeated. Some development company, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. They're demolishing it next week to build condos. She paused, probably waiting for me to break down or explode. When I didn't, she added with a sickening sweetness, I'll have your share of the money transferred to your account, minus my finder's fee. Of course, of course. Rachel had always been like this, entitled, selfish, utterly convinced that the world owed her everything. Our parents' death 2 years ago had only amplified these traits. When is the demolition scheduled? I asked, already pulling up flight options on my laptop. She laughed again, a harsh, grating sound. Next Thursday. Don't bother planning a tearful trip down memory lane. The sale is done. You can't change it. I thought about the hidden room behind the library wall, the one our father had built decades ago, about the safe embedded in its concrete floor, and the secrets it held within. We'll see about that, I said quietly, my voice laced with a determination that surprised even me. And then I hung up. The next few hours were a chaotic blur of activity. I arranged emergency leave from the hospital, booked the first available flight to Boston, and made some crucial phone calls, my adrenaline pumping with a desperate purpose. By sunrise, I was on my way to Entebbe International Airport, a burning resolve hardening my gaze. During the agonizingly long flight home, my thoughts kept returning to the last conversation I had with our father, just days before the car accident that took his life. The safe holds everything, he had said, pressing the key into my hand, his eyes filled with a heavy burden. Documents, accounts, everything I've built. Rachel can never know. She's not ready for that responsibility. Promise me you'll protect it, Emma. I had promised, not fully understanding the weight of my agreement. It wasn't until after their deaths that I finally opened the safe and discovered the truth about our family's legacy. The papers inside revealed that our father, the quiet librarian everyone knew, had been living a double life. He had spent decades building a real estate empire under various aliases, accumulating properties and investments worth over $50 million. All of it hidden, protected, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. I kept a secret, even when Rachel started pressuring me to sell the house. The house and its contents had to be protected. Now, as my plane descended into Boston Logan International Airport, I pulled up the text I'd received from my father's old lawyer, Benjamin Wong. Documents ready. Meeting set for tomorrow. She won't know what hit her. Rachel thought she was clever. She thought she'd finally beaten her older sister, the one who always played by the rules. But she had no idea what was coming. As I collected my luggage, another text came through, this one from Rachel, Demolition team doing a walkthrough tomorrow. Last chance to say goodbye to the old place. I smiled grimly despite my exhaustion. Perfect timing. The taxi ride to my old apartment felt surreal. Boston had changed in the months I had been gone, or maybe I had. The familiar streets felt different somehow, charged with a newfound sense of purpose. I unlocked my apartment door, dropping my bags in the hallway. Everything was exactly as I had left it, covered in a thin layer of dust. I went straight to my office, to the locked drawer where I kept my most important possession, the key to the safe, along with copies of everything inside, proof of our father's empire, documentation of every property, every account, every investment. Rachel thought she was selling a $3 million house. She had no idea she was sitting on the headquarters of a real estate empire worth 50 times that. My phone buzzed again. It was Benjamin one. Everything in place for tomorrow. Are you sure you want to do this? It will destroy your relationship with her completely. I thought about Rachel's cruel laughter when she told me about selling the house, about all the times she'd taken advantage of me, manipulated me, and schemed her way through life, about how she used my trust against me, abusing the power of attorney I'd given her. A sliver of doubt flickered within me. Then I shook it off. Some relationships need to be destroyed. I texted back. Tomorrow will change everything. Rachel thought she was clever, selling the house quickly and quietly, but she was about to learn that our father had taught me far more than she'd ever known. I sat down at my desk and began reviewing the document I'd need for tomorrow's meeting. Every detail had to be perfect, because when the dust settled, Rachel would finally understand what it meant to truly lose, and I would be there to watch it happen. The morning dawned crisp and clear as I pulled up to our family home for what might be the last time. Two black SUVs were already parked in the driveway, one belonging to the demolition company, the other to Rachel. I checked my watch, right on schedule. Rachel was standing on the front porch with David, watching as men in hard hats conducted their preliminary inspection. She froze when she saw me step out of my car, her face contorted with a mixture of shock and fury. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her designer heels clicking against the wooden boards as she marched toward me. "I thought you were in Africa." "Surprise," I said calmly, adjusting my blazer. David hung back, shifting uncomfortably. He'd always been wary of me, perhaps sensing that I saw through his smooth-talking facade. "Emma, you don't need to be here," Rachel said, trying to regain control. "Everything's handled. The sale is final." "About that," I replied, pulling out my phone as a third vehicle turned into our driveway. "We need to talk." Benjamin one stepped out of his Mercedes, briefcase in hand. Rachel's eyes narrowed at the sight of our father's old lawyer. "What's he doing here?" "Mr. Wong," I called out, ignoring her question. Perfect timing. The demolition foreman approached, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, addressing Rachel, "we're ready to begin the internal inspection." "Actually," I interrupted, "you'll want to wait on that. There are some ownership issues we need to address first." Rachel laughed, but I caught the nervous tremor in her voice. "There are no issues. I have a power of attorney. The sale is legitimate." "The power of attorney," Benjamin said, opening his briefcase, "was for medical emergencies only. It did not grant you the authority to sell Miss Harrison's portion of the property." Rachel's face flushed crimson. "That's not true. I had it reviewed by David's cousin, who just passed the bar. I finished for her." "Yes, I'm sure you did a thorough job." The foreman looked between us, clearly sensing trouble. "Should we come back another time?" "No," Rachel said quickly. "Proceed with the inspection. My sister is just being difficult." "Actually," Benjamin interjected, pulling out a document, "I have a court order preventing any demolition or alteration of this property, pending the investigation of fraudulent activity." Rachel's carefully constructed facade finally cracked. "I had every right to sell it, to sell a $3 million property for $800,000 without consulting your coroner," I asked quietly. "To use a medical power of attorney for a real estate transaction, to facilitate what appears to be a deliberate manipulation of property value." David stepped forward, his salesman smile plastered on his face. "Look, Emma, if you're unhappy with the price, maybe we can." "This isn't about the price," I cut him off. "This is about what's inside the house." Rachel rolled her eyes, but I caught the flicker of uncertainty in her expression. "Inside, this empty. We cleared everything out months ago." I turned to Benjamin. "Shall we show them?" Then, pulling out another document, Benjamin said, "Would you like to do the honors?" I led the group into the house, through the familiar hallways to the library, Rachel's heels echoing on the hardwood floors, her nervous energy palpable. "What is this about, Emma?" she demanded. "If you're trying to stop the sale, it's too late for that." I stopped in front of the bookshelf that had always been our father's favorite. "The sale was void the moment you signed the papers," I said, my voice hard. "But that's not why I'm here." I reached for the hidden latch behind Shakespeare's complete works, the one our father had shown me years ago. With a soft click, the entire bookshelf swung forward, revealing the hidden room behind it. Rachel gasped. David swore under his breath. The demolition foreman took an involuntary step back. "What is this?" Rachel whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. "This," I said, stepping into the concrete room, is our father's real legacy, the one he didn't trust you to know about. I knelt down and opened the safe embedded in the floor, the key turning smoothly in the lock. Inside lay decades of our father's careful planning, property deeds, account statements, corporate documents. Benjamin began laying out the papers on the table. Your father, he explained, was more than just a librarian. He spent 30 years building one of the largest private real estate portfolios in Massachusetts, all under various aliases, all perfectly legal, all carefully hidden. Rachel stared at the documents, her face ashen. How much? The current market value, Benjamin said, is approximately $50 million. David's eyes widened. Rachel grabbed the edge of the table for support. And you, I said to my sister, my voice dripping with scorn, just tried to sell the corporate headquarters of this empire at $800,000 to a shell company that I suspect is owned by David or one of his associates. David took a step backward, but Benjamin's assistant was already blocking the door. The FBI is very interested in this transaction, I continued, particularly given David's history of failed investment schemes and the suspicious timing of this sale. Rachel's legs gave out and she sank into our father's old leather chair. You, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You knew all this time. Dad told me everything before he died, I confirmed. He made me promise to protect it until the right time. And you didn't tell me. Her voice cracked with a mixture of anger and betrayal. Your own sister. I looked at her, really looked at her, at the designer clothes, the perfect makeup, the entitled attitude that had defined her entire life. Dad knew you weren't ready, I said softly, and he was right. The first chance you got, you tried to sell his life's work for pennies on the dollar. Benjamin cleared his throat. The FBI agents are waiting outside. They have some questions about the attempted sale and the potential fraud. Rachel's head snapped up, a desperate glint in her eyes. But I had a power of attorney, a medical power of attorney. I corrected her. Using it for real estate transactions is fraud. Selling property significantly below market value is fraud. And doing it all without proper authority is definitely fraud. I sat in Benjamin's office, signing the final documents that would restructure our father's empire. Rachel and David were both facing federal fraud charges, their assets frozen pending investigation. Everything's in order, Benjamin said, sliding the papers into his briefcase. The foundation is established, and the scholarship fund will launch next year. I nodded, thinking about how our father would have approved. The bulk of his fortune would now fund educational opportunities for underprivileged students, turning his secret empire into a force for good. Have you heard from Rachel? Benjamin asked carefully. Not since the indictment, I replied. She tried calling a few times in the beginning, alternating between threats and tearful pleas for help. But after I testified about her fraudulent use of the power of attorney, she finally understood that there was no going back. The house still stood, though I had it completely renovated. The hidden room was now a secure office, its existence properly documented. The demolition company had been revealed as a front for David's latest scam. Do you plan to flip the property for its true value once the fraudulent sale is voided? Benjamin asked. My phone buzzed. A message from the hospital in Uganda. When are you coming back? We miss our best surgeon. I smiled, thinking about how different my life was from what Rachel had always envisioned. She'd always seen my volunteer work as running away from real life. She never understood that I'd chosen that path precisely because I could, because our father had secretly ensured we'd never want for anything. The FBI finished their asset trace, Benjamin said, pulling up some documents on his computer. It seems David had set up quite an elaborate network of shell companies. He was planning to use your father's house as collateral for some substantial loans. Let me guess, I said dryly, more investment opportunities. Benjamin nodded. Rachel claimed she didn't know the full extent of it. She knew enough, I replied. The evidence had been clear. Emails, phone records, bank transfers, all showing she was fully aware of the scheme to defraud me. Standing at the window of Benjamin's office, I looked out over the Boston skyline. Somewhere out there, Rachel was preparing for a court date, probably still believing she was somehow the victim in all of this. Your father would be proud, Benjamin said quietly, not just of how you protected his legacy, but of what you're doing with it. The Scholarship Foundation had already selected its first recipients, bright, ambitious students who reminded me of our father, the quiet ones, the careful planners, the ones who understood that true success wasn't about quick profits. My phone buzzed again. This time an email from the real estate management company. The first round of renovations on our father's properties was complete. What had once been hidden was now being transformed into affordable housing units, community centers, and educational spaces. Do you ever regret it? Benjamin asked, exposing everything. You could have just stopped the sale quietly, kept the secret. I thought about Rachel's cruel laughter during that late night phone call, our casual dismissal of everything our father had built. No, I said firmly, some secrets need to be revealed. Some lessons need to be learned. Later that evening, as I packed for my return to Uganda, I found an old photo album. In it was a picture of Rachel and me as children, sitting in our father's library, surrounded by the books that concealed his empire. We were smiling, unaware of the secrets hidden behind those walls. I closed the album, thinking about how differently things had turned out from what either of us had expected. Rachel had thought she was seizing an opportunity, never imagining she was actually destroying her future. I had become the keeper of our father's legacy, not just protecting his wealth, but transforming it into something meaningful. The next morning, as my plane took off for Uganda, I received one final text from Benjamin. Guilty plea entered. Rachel took a deal. Restitution ordered. I turned off my phone, watching Boston disappear beneath the clouds. Maybe, just maybe, this would be enough time for her to understand what our father had known all along, that true wealth isn't just about money, and true success isn't built on shortcuts and schemes. As for me, I had patience waiting, lives to save, and a legacy to continue building. Rachel had tried to sell our father's house for a quick profit, never knowing she was sitting on an empire. But in the end, it was the house I kept, its secrets revealed at the right moment, just as our father intended. Sometimes, I thought as the plane headed east, the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else's happiness. Sometimes, it's about fulfilling your own purpose and letting them watch from the sideline as you build something greater than they could have ever imagined. The house still stands in Boston, its secrets now transformed into opportunities to others. And so, in Uganda, there's a hospital where a surgeon works tirelessly to save lives, carrying on a different kind of legacy, one that can't be measured in dollars or deeds, but in the lives touched and the changes made. That's the thing about legacy. After all, it's not just about what you leave behind, it's about what you choose to build with what you've been given. And I chose to build something worth more than all the quick profits Rachel had ever dreamed of. That's a revenge that would have made our father proud. So, Reddit, after hearing my story, do you think I handled the situation correctly? Was exposing everything and pursuing legal action the right move? Or should I have tried to resolve things differently with Rachel? I'm genuinely interested in your perspectives and insights, so please share your honest opinions.